You know, we all grow up with this idea, this fantasy, that love is supposed to look a certain way. We picture those movie moments, right? The fireworks, the slow motion glances, the music swelling when two people finally kiss in the rain. And look, I'm not here to ruin your favorite rom-com, but let's be real, that's the highlight reel. That's not love. That's the Instagram version of love. And the truth is, and I know this isn't sexy to say, love is not always attractive or charming. And I get it, because when we're single, we crave that beautiful, effortless connection. We want the chemistry, the banter, the mystery. We want the butterflies. But here's the thing about butterflies. They don't stick around. They're lovely, but they're fleeting. And if you're chasing butterflies all the time, you're going to miss the person who's actually willing to stay when the butterflies have flown off. Let me tell you something that most people won't. Sometimes the realest form of love shows up looking a little boring, or inconvenient, or even frustrating. You meet someone and there's no explosion, no soundtrack, just a quiet sense of peace. And you think, wait, is this it? Shouldn't it feel bigger? But love, real love, often starts in a whisper, not a bang. You see, we've romanticized dysfunction. We've made passion synonymous with chaos. And that's dangerous. Because when love is always supposed to be exciting, what happens the first time someone disappoints you? What happens when they don't text back immediately, or they're tired after work, or they forget something important? You start thinking, oh no, maybe this isn't love after all. But that's not true. That's just life. That's just two human beings figuring it out. I remember speaking to someone after a seminar, and she said, Matt, I don't know if he's the one. He's great, he listens, he supports me, he shows up. But I don't feel that constant rush. And I said to her, okay, let's talk about what you're really asking. Do you want someone who feels right, or someone who treats you right? Because sometimes those two aren't the same thing. Attraction, that initial spark, is important. I'm not dismissing it. You should absolutely feel excited about someone. But if excitement is all you're chasing, then you're in for a rude awakening when life starts throwing real challenges your way. Love isn't just about how someone makes you feel in the good times. It's about how they show up in the hard ones. When your parent is sick, when you lose your job, when you're doubting yourself, that's when you find out what love actually looks like. And sometimes, love looks like staying when it would be easier to leave. It looks like biting your tongue when you want to lash out. It looks like admitting you're wrong, even though your ego is screaming at you not to. It's showing up for that person not because you're obsessed or infatuated, but because you respect them. Because you value the connection more than the temporary discomfort. Here's something I say in my retreats all the time. The right relationship will still have problems. The difference is, in the right relationship, the problems are worth solving. That's love. Not Instagram-worthy gestures. Not constant butterflies. But a willingness to keep choosing each other, even on the days it's messy. I know that sounds unromantic, but actually I think it's the most romantic thing in the world. Because it's not built on fantasy. It's built on commitment. On values. On showing up for someone with consistency, not just intensity. You know how many people show up with intensity at the beginning? That's the easy part. But love isn't measured by how amazing someone is when everything's going right. It's about how they treat you when you've got nothing to give. That's where character lives. That's where you see love that lasts. Sometimes, love is waking up next to someone you're annoyed with and still making them coffee. Sometimes, love is choosing to be honest when lying would be easier. Sometimes, love is sitting in silence with someone who's going through something and not trying to fix it, not offering advice, just being there. You want to know what's really charming? Maturity, integrity, empathy, consistency. That's what you start craving when you've had enough of roller coaster relationships. That's when you realize that the things that truly matter aren't always attractive on the surface, but they're deeply, profoundly sexy in the long run. And listen, I'm not saying you should settle for boring. Don't misinterpret me here. I want you to feel turned on by your partner. I want you to be excited. I want you to flirt and laugh and have those sparks. But I also want you to be able to sit next to them in complete silence and still feel safe. Still feel seen. Still feel chosen. Too many people chase chemistry and ignore character. And then they wonder why they keep ending up in situationships, or emotionally unavailable dynamics or drama cycles. You're picking based on how attractive someone is when they're on their best behavior, not how reliable they are when things get real. So ask yourself this: am I chasing the version of love I saw in movies? Or am I actually open to the kind of love that grows, slowly, steadily, quietly, into something meaningful? Because that kind of love might not knock you off your feet at first. It might not sweep you away. It might not always come dressed in charm, but it will hold you. It will build with you. It will stand by you when your world is falling apart. And yeah, it might not be attractive in the way we've been taught to recognize, but it will be the most beautiful thing you've ever experienced. We grow up surrounded by stories that tell us love is supposed to sweep us off our feet. Movies, songs, and social media paint a picture where love is loud, dramatic, and impossibly romantic. We're taught to wait for that electric moment, the spark, the intense pull towards someone that feels like destiny. But the truth is, love doesn't always enter the room with a bang. Sometimes it walks in quietly and takes time to reveal itself. When people don't feel instant fireworks, they often assume something's missing. They ask, shouldn't I just know right away? That expectation can make us overlook the relationships that actually have the most potential. We confuse intensity with compatibility, thinking that love has to be thrilling all the time in order to be real. But love that's only exciting isn't always stable. And love that is stable doesn't always feel exciting at first. And that's okay. Real love unfolds in the moments that don't look glamorous. The everyday chats, the awkward silences, the vulnerable conversations where you're figuring each other out. It grows in spaces where people are showing up honestly, not performing for each other. That's not the stuff of Hollywood, but it's the foundation for something that lasts. Sometimes, love feels like comfort more than chaos. It feels like trust more than tension. And if you're used to relationships that run on emotional highs and lows, that kind of calm might feel unfamiliar, even boring. But don't mistake peace for a lack of connection. The absence of drama doesn't mean there's no depth. It often means there's maturity, safety, and something real starting to grow, even if it's not accompanied by a soundtrack and slow motion scene. Chemistry is often the first thing we look for in a connection. It's that instant pull, the spark that makes your heart race, the witty banter, the feeling that you've known someone forever. And while that can be exciting, even addictive, it's not what holds a relationship together. Chemistry can open the door, but character decides whether someone stays. And that's where so many people get stuck. They chase intensity but ignore the traits that actually make someone a reliable partner. You can be wildly attracted to someone who makes a terrible teammate in life. Attraction doesn't mean someone is emotionally available. It doesn't mean they're kind. It doesn't mean they communicate well, or know how to deal with conflict, or are willing to grow. That's where character comes in. Things like integrity, emotional maturity, consistency. They might not be sexy in the moment, but they're the difference between a relationship that drains you and one that sustains you. Consistency is massively underrated. It's not about grand gestures once in a while. It's about the small things done regularly. Checking in. Following through. Showing up when it counts, especially when it's inconvenient. That's not the stuff people brag about on social media, but it's what builds real trust. The problem is, many people confuse emotional highs with depth, so they keep chasing unavailable people or dramatic dynamics because they associate unpredictability with passion. But passion without stability is exhausting. The most meaningful relationships aren't built on how good it feels in the beginning. They're built on whether someone is still showing up when life stops being fun. You'll never regret choosing someone with good character, even if it doesn't come with fireworks on day one. Because in the long run, character outlasts chemistry every single time. We live in a world that places a massive premium on chemistry. It's the thing everyone talks about after a first date. Was there a spark? Did you feel it? As if that's the sole measure of whether something is worth pursuing. But the reality is, chemistry is just one part of the equation, and often, it's the most misleading one. You can have incredible chemistry with someone who is completely wrong for you. Someone who is inconsistent, emotionally unavailable, or lacks the capacity to grow with you. And yet, because that chemistry feels so good in the moment, we convince ourselves it's love. But love isn't about the high you feel when someone texts you after 3 days of silence. It's not about the tension of not knowing where you stand. That's not romance. That's anxiety. And we confuse the adrenaline of uncertainty with passion, because we haven't been taught to value calm. Character, on the other hand, is what builds the foundation. It's how someone treats you when they're not trying to impress you. It's how they behave when they're frustrated, tired, or not getting their way. That's when you see who someone really is. Character is being emotionally available. It's being consistent in actions, not just words. It's having the humility to admit when you're wrong, and the strength to prioritize the relationship, even in conflict. And that's not always flashy. It won't give you butterflies every single day, but it will give you security, peace, and depth. And honestly, that's a lot sexier than the hot and cold games we convince ourselves are exciting. Chemistry might draw you in, but it's character that keeps you. Because in the end, you don't build a life with sparks. You build it with someone who shows up every day. Love is easy when everything's going right. When you're both well rested, the mood is light, and life isn't throwing curveballs at you. It's not hard to be romantic, patient, or attentive. But that's not when the strength of a relationship is tested. Real love is revealed in the difficult moments. When you're stressed, when you're grieving, when you're doubting yourself or your partner. That's when you find out whether love is just a feeling or a decision someone is committed to making. It's in the moments when you're not your most charming, when you're irritable, or overwhelmed, or simply running on empty, and your partner still chooses to stay connected, not because it's easy, but because they value you. That's love. Not the highlight reel version, but the gritty, human version that's grounded in something deeper than just attraction. Sometimes love shows up in the smallest, least glamorous ways, like holding space for someone to cry without offering solutions. Like staying present during an argument instead of storming out. Like doing the dishes when your partner's had a long day, not because they asked, but because you noticed. These aren't Instagram-worthy moments, but they're the heartbeat of a strong relationship. A partner's true value shows not in how great they are, when everything is fun and exciting, but in how they show up when you're struggling. That's when words like, "I love you," turn into real actions. And that's where so many people go wrong. They look for someone who's amazing when it's convenient. But what you need is someone who's reliable when it's uncomfortable. Love isn't tested by how well you laugh together on a good day. It's tested by how you treat each other when things get heavy. Because that's where love earns its name. We've been conditioned to believe in a fantasy version of love. The dramatic kind that's full of tension, mystery, and emotional roller coasters. It's the version where love always feels intense, uncertain, and a little bit addictive. And because that's what we think love should feel like, we end up walking away from relationships that are actually healthy, simply because they don't match that fantasy. We think calm means boring, that consistency means there's no passion, when really, those are the signs of emotional safety, something truly rare and valuable. People often overlook a good partner because they're not exciting enough. But excitement can come from chaos just as easily as it can come from connection. If you're always chasing the emotional high, you'll keep ending up with people who are inconsistent, unavailable, or unreliable. Because unpredictability fuels that high. But real love doesn't always give you a rush. Sometimes it just gives you peace. And you have to be in a healthy place yourself to even recognize that as love. Choosing real connection means letting go of the story in your head about how it's supposed to look. It means being open to love that grows over time, that deepens with trust, and that doesn't rely on drama to feel alive. It means noticing who treats you well, even when no one's watching, who listens when it's inconvenient, who doesn't need to perform to win your affection. It might not feel like a movie scene, but that kind of love will change your life. You won't have to question your worth in it. You won't have to chase it. You'll just feel safe in it. And from that safety, something beautiful can grow. Not fantasy, not perfection, just something real, finally. So if you've been waiting for love to look like the movies, all charm, chemistry, and constant highs, it might be time to rewrite the script. Because real love, the kind that lasts, often arrives without the drama. It's not always pretty. It's not always exciting. But it's steady. It's honest. It's there when things fall apart and when they come back together. Don't chase the version of love that only looks good on the surface. Choose the one that shows up, especially when it's hard, especially when it's messy. That's not just love you feel, that's love you can count on. And in the end, that's the kind that actually changes your life.